Well, Teresa, thank you so much for being here. I guess I'll make a quick introduction. I'm Sharone Sapir, nutritionist with Shapa, and I'm so honored to have you on here. You've been part of the Shapa community for a little while now.
Yes.
And you are here to talk with us about survivorship, as it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, month of October, and you have survived cancer twice. And it's not always what we kind of read about with survivorship. You're here to tell us about the everyday, unspectacular effects of it, but that are important to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma at 40. And then I went through treatment for that and everything was fine. And I had I had effects that I was tired. I had the very classic effects, but I had read, and all of the media gave me the signal that you beat cancer and you ring the bell and you go on to this fabulous life and you're stronger than you were. And that wasn't true for me. I tried to go back to teaching and it was overwhelming. I could not be a wife, a mother, and a teacher, and something had to give, and I had to give up teaching, and that was very upsetting. So I began to realize that I couldn't be the only one. And the more I reached out, and most of it began in the doctor's office, sitting there with other patients and communicating with them, and realizing that I wasn't alone, and that there are the effects of the chemo and the radiation and psychological effects and physical effects that do impact your daily life. And one of them is the breast cancer even. That was a direct result of the radiation treatment that I had. I have no history of breast cancer in my family. And when my daughters were tested genetically, they have no genetic predisposition towards cancer. So it was confirmed that it was a result of the treatment. So that came as a surprise to me. Again, it was something, I didn't feel the lump, but I had got a sonogram, and then I would get a MRI, not an MRI, I can't remember what it was, but I was tested pretty much every year, every 6 months, give or take. And when I had the breast cancer, then I had to decide what type of treatment did I want, or was I eligible for? And I could not get any radiation treatment because I now have a lifetime maximum of radiation. So for me, it was a bilateral mastectomy, even though I had breast cancer in the left breast. It was really just a matter of time before I got it in the right breast. So I decided to just have one surgery and do it at that time. And, I really feel that, for me, that was the right decision, having an implant done. But some people, decide to go flat. And I think that that's an equally good decision. And I equate it with hair color, to a certain extent. It's like, if you want to be a blonde, you're a blonde, or, you choose to be a brunette, either flat or you have implants. And, that's such a personal decision. And, who am I to say that everybody should be brunette or everybody should be blonde? It's up to each individual person with no judgments as to what to do with that.
I love that analogy to hair color. Like, it's so personal,
Exactly. And, sometimes, if the flat's not ready for you, or, the implants aren't, it's not as easy, obviously, as hair color changing.
Yes.
But it's, I think that that judgment It's a personal choice, and there's no reason to judge anybody based upon on what hair color they have or what they decide to do after their breast cancer with their body. And I felt, for me, it was a little bit difficult. I'd had a hysterectomy prior, and now I had no breasts, I had, no uterus, no ovary. What defines a woman? Am I still a woman? And, but I have no bodily parts of a woman, kind of thing. And I struggled with that a little bit. And it made me think of what is gender and the body versus the mind. And it really kind of opened my mind to the differences between what your body says and what your mind says. I still felt very much a female, obviously, but, technically, I didn't have any hormones of a female. I didn't have any body parts of a female. So I struggled with that, for a while, and came to, obviously the conclusion, I'm still a woman, but it caused an awareness in gender identity for me, I think, and for others who struggle with that gender identity. I have some empathy. Obviously, it's, I don't live it in a different, I live it in a different way, but I think that it brought an awareness for me of gender identity.
That is so interesting. And actually, I never even thought, but it makes sense because our identity is so wrapped up in our physical body, but what happens when that physical body changes?
Right.
And it was a big change for you.
Yes, it was a big change.
So how did you find support? What was your support like? How did it matter?
I think, certainly my family was extremely supportive. My husband, my children, my siblings, and that support helped, still helps tremendously. And I think what surprised me is, I feel so so much gratitude and so lucky for that, but not everybody has that. And that's kind of what made me shift towards advocacy. There are many young single women who go through this. There are, older women who go through this. So they just don't have the support. And I think the support of other women and is extremely important.
So what do you do in your advocacy?
I work with Dr. Michael Stubblefield, and generally I work with organizations like you and on GRIT, GRYT, and I advocate for the knowledge for medical staff for long-term survivors. A lot of medical staff aren't aware of the psychological implications, or how do you break the news to them? How do you get them through therapy? How do you get them after therapy? And I do a lot of writing, and then I've spoken in front of the American Heart Association and PICOR, it's called. So I do some public speaking also.
That's amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Amazing.
I'm sorry. Belle, can you wait to put that away? Okay, thanks. I just came home with groceries.
I never know because it looks like you're out in nature right now. Groceries in nature. That's really amazing because I do think that in society we feel that once somebody is declared cancer free, why shouldn't they just go back to their life before?
Yes. And a lot of times there are, with the surgery that's required or the chemo that's required, there are physical limitations. I have a difficulty lifting because you have, your muscles are cut. Lifting things up is difficult. And, so just putting, for me, I'm older, but, putting things away on top shelves, I need help with. So, you need physical modifications as well as, whether you're young or you're old. I think that due to the physical nature of having a mastectomy is, it affects you physically and your limitations.
And I read a piece that you wrote really beautifully about being kind to yourself about it too, and not being hard on yourself, that you can't do everything that you could do before,
Right.
but having compassion.
It accepting those limitations is a struggle constantly, and it waxes and wanes. And I kind of have a little pity party for myself when I can't do things, and oh geez, oh poor me, and why does it have to be, and then I kind of realize, well, whatever time I have left, there are things that I can do. And am I just going to sit here and feel sorry for myself and waste the time, or am I going to use that time to find other ways to do it and to enjoy what I can do? So I try to at least, try to do that in terms of limitations. And, the other thing, I don't know if it's silly, you can keep it or not, but, everybody has limitations. When you're a child, you have a limitation, you have to eat what your mother puts in front of you. You have, you have to go to bed when your mother tells you to go to bed. And so you have those limitations, but that doesn't mean you're unhappy. And, when you're a teenager, you can't drive, and there's limitations about where you can go, but it doesn't mean that you can't be happy. And throughout life, and now you're married and you have to compromise, and you just can't take off where you want to go.
What do you mean?
Right. You have to make the meals that the kids have to eat. So, throughout our life, we have limitations, and it doesn't mean that we can't be happy. So, when you look at it kind of through a timeline, you realize, yes, I have the limitations, but that doesn't have to interfere with my happiness.
I love that. I love that. Wow. Wow. So much food for thought there. What tools do you think helped you cope?
I think meditation. I actually, luckily we have a Buddhist monastery that's very close by. So I started doing meditation training in the Tibetan Buddhist model, and that helped tremendously. It developed an awareness in terms of the meditation and being aware of where I am now, where I was in the past, where I could be in the future. So those types of things. Meditation helped. And being out in nature helped. Going to an art gallery helped. Those kinds of things. So embracing, just having coffee with friends, and laughter and humor. So, things that everybody experiences, but also I think the internet in terms of knowledge, using, for example, this type of thing, looking at podcasts and listening to other points of view. So the internet, there's a lot of garbage.
True.
A lot of garbage, but if you have the resources for, there are websites where you read the medical journals. There are websites, that you can find a camaraderie. So the internet also helps it and makes you feel, I think, less alone.
So staying connected sounds like it's very key.
Yes.
Are there any communities out there that you recommend if someone's looking to connect?
There are some groups on Facebook that you can connect through, but through the American Cancer Organizations, they have a lot of resources about how to find different groups, and they're legit groups with, some meat to them, not just somebody promoting their products.
Oh, no.
So, the American Cancer Society has a lot of information. And the generally the larger teaching hospitals also have, if you call them, or look at their sites, they have a lot. Sloan Kettering, Memorial Sloan Kettering has it, Kessler Rehab. So there are now Vanderbilt's, Cleveland Clinic. So if you look at major teaching hospitals, they will also have resources to send you to, or information.
Okay, so it looks like it's out there. You have to just
Well,
go.
when you're having your pity party, that's when you do, like, oh,
Yeah.
you're having your pity party. What can I, survivorship, cancer survivorship is the search that I use.
So Google that, cancer survivorship, because it does sound like there are so many resources, and yeah, it's and it sounds like it's okay to have that pity party as long as you don't stay in it.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. After you have that little pity party and you're, woe is me, you have to say again, well, what benefit is this to me? And, there is no, it's kind of, again, silly, but it's like when you stub your toe, you ow, 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 and you may cry and you hold your toe and, oh, it's just horrible. But, you can't give up walking.
Right.
You say, so you go through the emotions and you're like, okay, yeah, my toe hurts, and all right, so I'll wear, my big shoes, or you find something that can work with that stub toe. So it's the same kind of thing. You're entitled to, like, ow, 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 and cry,
Exactly.
I gotta, this is killing me, kind of thing.
Yes.
You can't stay there. You have to, you have to say, all right,
Okay.
I gotta function. And so that's an analogy that I use, so.
I like that analogy. It makes a lot of sense. And yes. So I have another question for you.
Yeah.
How has your view on health changed since survivorship?
Yeah, actually, there's an old, I think it's probably in every ethnic, but an old Jewish saying, if you got your health, you got everything.
Yeah.
And that's so true, and people used to think I was a germaphobe, but I have no working spleen. So the phobe part wasn't an unrealistic fear. And the COVID kind of, I was prepared for that. I always washed my hands because, I have no immune system. So those kinds of precautions that everybody's taking now have really been part of my life. So, health is important, and it's, I cook most of my meals. I don't eat processed food, although I still struggle with portion control. That's my that's my struggle. And so I try to eat healthy, and and I found the Shapa scale to be invaluable also. I really have. I don't know that I could go back to a regular one. It provides so much information. What, in terms of long term, I look at history and it tells me whether my body fat has gone up, not, it's related to my weight. So it's not, I don't have to second guess. And it's like, okay, my weight might have gone up a little bit, but my body fat has gone down. Or, it shows me that it's a teal color. So that, I do it first thing in the morning, and it sets the tone for the day. So I know that it's teal, and, that means I'm on the downside. So, I may have, something that maybe I shouldn't, but, when when it's the other color, what is it? I think, I don't have it too often, but when it's gray, I think it is,
Uh-huh.
you know, it's like, whoa, okay, you know.
Time to reel it in.
Exactly. And without making me feel bad, or, you know, and if I, you know, if I want to check, I could find out what it is, you know, what that weight is through Apple Health. So it really sets a tone for me and gives me a long-term view of how I'm doing, and versus, and I don't, you know, and it keeps track on my phone, so I don't have to, you know, write it down, or what was it yesterday, or what was it 2 days ago, or 2 weeks ago. And, you know, it also, you know, allows me, if I have a large gain, you know, a 4-pound gain, I know that that's, you know, water weight, and I better be careful. And, you know, now, you know, watch my blood pressure, you know, so, you know, it correlates with symptoms that I've had. So I, you know, it's just so much more than a regular scale to be. I know, you know, it just really is so much more than a regular scale.
It's like a non-judgmental self-monitoring tool.
Yes.
A
Yes.
mouthful, right? Not very, you know, not great for marketing, but
Right. You have to come up with an acronym for it or something.
right.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
really is, like I said, it's the first thing, you know, I do in the morning, and it sets the tone for the day.
Love it. I mean, that's what it aims to do. So I'm so happy. And you were one of the early adopters,
Yes,
right? I think.
2017 I started.
Wow.
Yeah, so one of the early adopters. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I really have found, you know, it's information to be extremely valuable. It's easy to use. It's pleasure, you know, gives, you know, a lot of information. I couldn't go back to a regular scale. I just couldn't.
Amazing. Amazing to hear. Well, Teresa, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for coming on and
Oh,
sharing your experience. I know there are so many people out there who need to hear it and know that they're not alone, or have a better way to support loved ones who are going through it. And
right.
just thank you.
It's by my pleasure, and I really do want to let people know that, you know, be kind to yourself. You know, you're kind to everybody else, and, you know, when you can't do something, so that day you can't do something, it's not the end of the world, you know.
Such a good message. It's
Yeah.
such an important message, and we need to hear it. So
All
thank you.
right. Well, thank you so much.
All right.